Let me warn you about something before this video continues. What I am about to tell you is not motivational content. It is not a feel-good speech designed to make you clap and forget about it in 20 minutes. If you fully absorb what I am about to show you, the way you see yourself will shift permanently. Because the average life that most introverts are living right now is not the result of bad luck. It is not a starting point they have not escaped yet. It is the direct result of a story the world told them before they were old enough to question it. A story about who they are. A story about what they are worth. A story that was never true. In the next few minutes, I am going to tear that story apart piece by piece. Because once you see it clearly, it loses its grip on you. Let us go. Part 1. The lie that built your cage. Here is the thing nobody says directly. The world did not misunderstand introverts. The world feared them. And when the world fears something it cannot control, it does not study it. It does not celebrate it. It labels it as broken and moves on. From the very beginning, introverts were handed a story. You are too quiet. You are too much in your own head. You need to speak up. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be more like the loud ones. And most introverts believed that story. They had no reason not to. It came from teachers. It came from parents. It came from every social environment that rewarded noise and penalized stillness. So the introvert did what made sense. They tried to perform. They forced themselves into rooms that drained them. They mimicked energy they did not have. They smiled through social interactions that felt like physical labor. And at the end of every single day, they went home exhausted and quietly wondered what was wrong with them. Nothing was wrong with them. Everything was wrong with the story. Here is the dark truth. The extrovert model that the world pushes so hard is not the superior model. It is simply the more visible one. And visibility got mistaken for value. The loudest person in the room gets the attention. The most social person at the party gets remembered. The confident presenter gets the promotion. And somewhere along the way, society built an entire architecture around the idea that those traits were the traits that mattered. Schools were designed for them. Offices were designed for them. Social systems were designed for them. And introverts were handed a map that was never drawn for them and told to follow it or fall behind. That is the cage, not your personality. The map. Part 2. What the world actually suppressed. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because what the world called weakness in you was never weakness. It was a capability set that the average system could not profit from. And anything the average system cannot profit from, it discourages. Think about what introversion actually is at its core. It is the ability to go deep. While everyone else is skimming the surface of every conversation, every idea, every experience, the introvert is going underneath it. They are processing on a level most people never reach. They are noticing what nobody else notices. They are connecting dots that appear completely unrelated to the untrained eye. They are sitting in silence and producing thought that takes other people hours of loud collaboration to reach. That is not a flaw. That is a weapon. The greatest thinkers in recorded history were not the loudest people in their rooms. Isaac Newton worked alone for months at a time. Albert Einstein described himself as deeply introverted and said his best thinking happened in solitude. Steven Spielberg has spoken about being shy and internal his entire life. Bill Gates still schedules regular think weeks where he goes completely alone with nothing but books and his own thoughts. Warren Buffett reads for 5 to 6 hours per day in silence. These are not coincidences. These are patterns. And the pattern is this. The people who changed the world most permanently were the people who spent the most time alone with their own minds. The world told you that solitude was a problem to be solved. The truth is that solitude is a laboratory, and you have been sitting inside one your entire life without knowing what it was for. Part 3. The 3 illegal truths about your power. Here is where this gets specific. Because understanding that introverts are capable is not enough. You need to understand exactly what you are capable of and why the average world works so hard to keep you from finding out. The first illegal truth is this. Your ability to focus deeply is worth more in today's economy than almost any other skill. We are living in an age of infinite distraction. Attention spans are collapsing. The average person cannot sit with a difficult problem for more than a few minutes before reaching for their phone. They cannot read a long book without their mind drifting. They cannot build anything complex because building complex things requires long, uninterrupted blocks of concentrated thought. And that is exactly what most people can no longer do. But you can. You always could. While everyone else was burning their focus on short-form content and surface-level socializing, you were quietly building the capacity to go deep. That capacity is becoming rarer every single year, and rare things that are useful become extraordinarily valuable. The introvert who learns to weaponize their focus in a world of distracted people is not at a disadvantage. They are operating on a different level entirely. The second illegal truth is this: your observation skills are a form of intelligence. The world does not measure or reward in obvious ways, but they produce results that nothing else can replicate. Introverts watch. They study rooms before they enter them. They read people before they speak to them. They understand systems by observing them quietly before they ever try to interact with them. This is not passivity. This is data collection at a level most people never achieve. The best writers in the world are almost always introverts. The best strategists, the best investors, the best therapists. These are all fields where the ability to observe deeply, process quietly, and understand what others miss produces results that cannot be faked or shortcut. You have been doing this your entire life. You just did not know it was a skill. You thought it was just how you moved through the world. It is how you move through the world. And it is one of the most powerful ways anyone can move through the world. The third illegal truth is this: your depth of feeling, the thing the world made you feel ashamed of, is the exact thing that produces work that connects with other people on a level that shallow creators can never reach. Every piece of content that has ever made you stop scrolling was created by someone who felt something deeply enough to capture it. Every book that changed your life was written by someone whose inner world was rich enough to produce that kind of truth. Every business that built genuine loyalty did so because someone cared about it on a level beyond the surface. Introverts feel deeply. They process deeply. And when they learn to translate that depth into output, the output is unlike anything the loud, fast, surface-level world can produce. The world suppressed this in you, not because it was useless, because it was threatening. Part 4. How? The average life keeps you small. Now here is the mechanism. Because understanding that you have power is useless if you do not understand what has been neutralizing it. The average life that most introverts are living right now runs on a set of invisible agreements. Agreements that were never chosen but were absorbed from the environment before there was any ability to filter them. Agreements like these: quiet people do not lead. People who need alone time are antisocial. Ambition requires networking. Success requires performing confidence you do not feel. You have to be a certain kind of person to build a certain kind of life. And that kind of person is loud, social, and always on. These agreements feel like reality. They feel like the way things are. That feeling is the machine's most important feature, because as long as they feel like reality rather than choices, they will never be examined. And unexamined agreements run your entire life on autopilot, producing the same average outputs year after year regardless of what you say you want. Here is the specific way it plays out for introverts. The introvert comes home drained from performing extroversion all day. They have no energy left for their own work. So they consume videos, social media, passive entertainment that asks nothing from them and returns nothing to them. 4 hours pass. They go to sleep. The next day is identical. Across 1 year, that is over 1,000 hours. Over a decade, that is 10,000 hours fed into a machine that produces nothing except the feeling of having rested, when in reality, nothing was built and nothing moved. Meanwhile, the skill that would change everything, the book that would become a business, the idea that would become a product, sits untouched. Not because the introvert is lazy, because the system they are living inside is designed to extract their most valuable resource, which is their quiet, focused, creative energy, and return nothing in exchange. This is not an accident. This is the design. Part 5. The destruction plan. Everything up to this point has been diagnosis. Here is the prescription. The specific operational changes that produce the actual escape from average for introverts, not for extroverts who were told to be introverts. For people who process deeply, work best alone, and have been living inside a system that was never built for them. The first change is reclaiming your first hour, before the world gets access to you. Before the performance begins, before you have to be anyone other than exactly who you are. That first hour belongs to your work, not to warming up, not to checking what the world did while you slept, to the one thing that most consistently disappears into the demands of the day: your writing, your building, your thinking, your creating. Whatever the work is that would most move your life if it actually happened consistently. It happens in that first hour, or it does not happen at all. The second change is building in the dark. One of the most damaging agreements the average system sold introverts is the idea that visibility equals progress. That you need to be seen building in order for the building to count. That you need to announce your goals, share your process, perform your ambition for an audience in real time. You do not. The most powerful thing an introvert can do is build quietly and launch loudly. Use your solitude as a production environment. Keep your work offline until it is ready. Let the world see the result, not the process. This is not secrecy. This is strategy. The third change is turning your depth into your product. Whatever field you are in or want to be in, there is a version of that work that requires exactly what you are built for. Deep research, careful observation, slow-built trust, long-form thinking. Find the version of your work that rewards depth over performance and build toward that version with focused daily intensity. One skill, one direction, 1 hour minimum every day. Not learning about it, actually doing it. The discomfort you feel while doing hard creative work alone is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the signal that something is finally right. The fourth change is auditing who has access to your energy. This is the one that will make some people uncomfortable. Every person in your regular environment is either moving you toward the life you are building or pulling you back toward the life you are trying to leave. There is no neutral. And for introverts especially, who have limited social energy to begin with, every hour spent performing for people who do not support your growth is an hour taken directly from the work. This is not about cruelty or dramatic exits. It is about being deliberate. Protect your energy like the finite and extraordinarily valuable resource it actually is. The fifth change is replacing the story. This is the most important one. Your behavior will never consistently exceed the ceiling of your identity. If your internal story says you are someone who is too quiet to lead, you will find ways to avoid leading even when opportunities appear. If your internal story says introverts do not build successful things, you will unconsciously walk away from exactly the kind of success that would contradict that story. The brain is a consistency machine. It protects the story even when the story is destroying you. The escape begins the moment you look directly at the inherited story and make a deliberate decision that it is no longer the operating system you run on. Not through affirmations. Through the hard, confrontational work of choosing a different story and then making every daily decision from inside that new story until it becomes the truth. Part 6. The identity on the other side. Here is what is waiting on the other side of that work. Not a louder version of you. Not a person who has finally learned to fake extroversion convincingly enough to pass. A version of you that has stopped apologizing for how you are built and started using it as the primary tool for building something real. The introvert who has done this work does not walk into rooms trying to perform. They walk in having already thought more deeply about the subject than anyone else in the space. They do not need to be the loudest voice because their work speaks at a volume that noise cannot compete with. They do not need a large social circle because the depth of the connections they do build produces more value than 100 shallow ones. They do not need external validation because they have built an internal reference point strong enough to operate without it. That person is not far from you. They are not a different human being. They are you, operating from the truth of what you actually are, instead of the story of what the world decided you were. The average life you are living right now is not the result of your introversion. It is the result of living inside a system designed to suppress what your introversion makes possible. The moment you stop following a map that was never drawn for you and start building the road that your specific kind of mind was actually built to walk, everything changes. Not tomorrow. Not after one more video. Now. Because the destruction of the average life does not begin with a dramatic external event. It begins with a quiet internal decision. The kind that introverts, when they finally make it, make with a depth and a permanence that the loud world has never been able to match.